Yo, yo, what's up? What's up? Good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you guys are. Let's talk some boxing, man. What's up? I am the one. What's up with you, bro? What's good? All right. Hope everybody's doing good. Um, so we got a card tonight on the zone, Diego Pacheco, Kevin Sajo. I will be live for it. All right. I just wanted to get on early because I wanted to talk about this a lot of, I haven't made no content in like the last 2, 3 days. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the sport. So I have like a list of topics I wanted to discuss. And we just chill, talk about other stuff too as well. I'll probably be on here for like another like hour or two. And we can just chop it up, talk boxing. And then later on tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, I will be live to cover the zone card later. All right. I did a breakdown of that main event between Pacheco and Sajo. So if you didn't see that, definitely check it out. I'm leaning towards Pacheco by stoppage. All right, I think I already placed my bet. I didn't pick a round or anything like that. Just straight up. I think a lot of people are picking. There's people out there that got Sajo pulling off the upset, but I think I'm gonna go with Diego. I think Diego's gonna get it done. All right. Um, and that's it, man. What's up with you guys? What's up, chat, man? What do you guys do? Hit me in the chat. What's going on with you guys, man? How's everything going? Hope everyone's having a great week so far. I've had a good week. I've been going. I've been working, going out, went out a couple times this week, and just had dinner with my mom last night. Went out with my cousin. And then it's just watching good stuff, watching some good shows. F1 is over, so just doing boxing and basketball pretty much for the rest of the year, and that's it really, man. That's it. Um, let's see. So yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit now. Did you guys check out did you guys check out the Tim Bradley released the sparring footage with him and Bud Crawford? If you haven't already, and I think everybody should be, follow Tim Bradley on his YouTube channel. It's a channel that I never thought I needed. Like, some people get it. Some people are great content creators, but don't really have a background in the sport like that. But he's one of the few guys that really, really get it. What's up, Pepino? What's up, Josh? He's one of the few people that really, really get it. Like Tim Bradley understand this content creating game real quickly, very quickly. He came on here. He's a Hall of Famer. So, even if you disagree with him, it's not like he don't know boxing. He knows boxing. He was an excellent commentator over there in Top Rank. And I feel like now that Top Rank is over, he has a lot more free time on his hands. And he randomly posted the Bud Crawford sparring session. Now, I didn't watch the whole thing. I probably watched like 5-7 minutes of it, something like that. I did see the knockdown. But we saw what we saw. I mean, Bud was doing, even though Bud was a whole lot younger at that time, Bud was pretty much doing what he normally do. The only difference is we were seeing um him doing against a prime Tim Bradley when Bud was really, really didn't was well a lot less experienced. But I mean, from what I was watching in the sparring, and I've seen a few of Bud's sparring sessions, but Bud he looked good even back then. I mean, obviously, if he was giving Bradley that work, and Bradley always said that Bud gave him the work in their sparring session. And that's pretty much how everything really started really flowing with him after that. But that sparring session, I'm gonna watch the rest of it. It's like a 30-minute long video. I don't know if they're sparring the whole video, but from what I saw, he was doing his thing. Like Bud was doing his thing. Bud was doing what we always see him do, like controlling him, Bradley with that lead hand, and he dropped him with a check right hook, I believe. Put him down. Nothing hard, but I mean, it was just like watching Bud against one of the greats from that era, that previous era. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. I'm definitely gonna watch the rest of it when I get a chance to today. I had gotten up and what's up, AO? What's good with you? I gotten up and then I started getting things done. I didn't have time to watch the entire sparring session, but I'm definitely gonna go back to it and watch it because I definitely rock with Tim Bradley and especially during his time, he was definitely one of the best. And but Bud was kicking his ass in that sparring session for sure. I mean, he said it, so it is what it is. All right. Yeah, definitely smash that like button. And yeah, I'll probably open this up. You guys join the chat when a few more people get in. What else is going on? What else is going on? See a few topics here. I seen the Gassiev Pulev knockout. Did you guys check that out? I saw the Gassiev Pulev knockout, and every time I see like these guys with the WBA regular title, I always wonder like how is this like how does that rating system work? You know, I just like the WBA regular title, especially in the heavyweight division, never really made sense to me. You had Mahmoud Char or Manuel Char was a WBA regular champ for like some time, like for years at one point, right? And then you had Trevor Bryan. He became the champion some way. Triple D like wiped him out. I think Char became the WBA regular at some point again. I think maybe Pulev might have beaten him. And then Gassiev just beat him last night. And the knockout was crazy. Yo, every Pulev knockout is super dramatic. Is it me or is every Pulev knockout like dramatic? Like he's flopping all over the place. He's getting up, smiling. Remember when Klitschko caught him with that right hook? I think it was a right hook or left hook. I know it was a hook. And Pulev got up and then like he stood on one leg, and then he tried to make it seem like he wasn't hurt, and then Klitschko dropped him again right after, like bad, right? Yeah, he did beat. So he beat Manuel Char to get the WBA strap, and then Garcia beat him to get the WBA strap. He's always been a dramatic, like every time he gets dropped, there's always like a lot of drama behind it. Because when AJ dropped him, it was the same thing. And then when Gassiev dropped him, knocked him out. I mean, it's just always dramatic. It always looks really bad. um, but yeah, that knockout was crazy. But at the same time, I'm like, Murat Gassiev, from what I remember, when he lost to Usyk, and from what I remember, Usyk won every round. All right, that was the first tournament finals. Gassiev had stopped Dorticos. I remember that. You guys remember that? That was crazy. But that was like the semifinals, and Usyk had fought Breedis. Well, I think the Breedis fight was really like the main fight of that tournament, right? But Usyk schools Gassiev. Gassiev takes a break, like he like semi-retired, and he didn't box for a while. Then he decided to go to heavyweight. He beat up a couple scrubs, and then he ended up fighting. Who did he fight? Who did he fight and lost to? Otto Walling, right? Terrible fight, by the way. Gassiev is just his punch output is so low. Like if he doesn't stop you, you're most likely going to beat him on points. That's how I look at Gassiev. If you look at his record, right? Jeremiah Milton, Kubrat Pulev, some other guy. I can't remember. I'm not gonna even try to pronounce his name. Otto Wallin, he lost. But everything else in between these losses is by KO, right? Mike Ballogun, he knocked him out in 2 rounds. That's the guy that got knocked out recently by Moses Tama. So Gassiev, like, to me, is I don't think, not for nothing, man. Gassiev is a good fighter, but I don't think neither one of them are like top 20. I mean, Pulev was not top 20. Gassiev, you might throw him in the top 20 at this point, but he, like, this is his best win as a heavyweight, to be honest. This is his best win as a heavyweight. And he's the regular champion. And what I always say about that title, what I believe at that title is that regular title. They keep it nice and warm for whoever they want to move up quickly to get a mandatory shot at whoever's the champion at the time. And I say that because you guys got guys like Manuel Char, right? That held it for a while. You got guys like Trevor Bryan, like who did he beat? You got those guys, and then out of nowhere, Triple D comes in, beats Trevor Bryan, becomes a mandatory for a Usyk fight after he had lost to Joe Joyce. You know what I mean? And Joe Joyce goes and beats Triple D, he goes and beats Joseph Parker. How does Triple D get a title shot before a guy like Joe Joyce, who was at the time probably the most dangerous and feared heavyweight? Now, fortunately for Joe Joyce, he ran into Zhilei Zhang. We all saw what happened in that fight. But at the end of the day, it's just bad, bro. It's just bad. Yeah. Nah, I mean, what's up? Yeah, see, Pierre, I'm not really interested in the Andrew Tate fight. You know what? When is that fight? I seen a couple clips. Let me look it up. I seen a couple clips, and I seen that, like, he had a face off with this guy. That's next week. Well, I'm not doing any boxing next week. No, well, I am doing the Jake Paul, but that's Saturday. I can't do any boxing, so I'm definitely not going live that 20 because I'm actually celebrating Christmas with my family that day. So December 20th, I'm out. But I'll probably check it out. Like I see Andrew Tate fight. Like I seen some of his kickboxing fights on YouTube. Once he got popular, I did like kind of watch some of his stuff. Once I found out that he was a fighter, and he's pretty good. But I don't know anything about the guy he's facing. I don't even know who that is. Chase Demore. I have no idea who that is, bro. But he's a popular guy. He has some outrageous takes. I'm talking about Andrew Tate. He goes viral a lot. You always see him on the timeline. He's heavy on the red pill stuff. I've seen like some of his videos with his cars. I know he has a lot of cars. I know he likes to shit on everything that's not like rich. Like I seen this video of him one time and he was just like, yeah, these guys that has these Porsche GT3 RSs, those are cheap pricks, poor, broke. I was like, yo, I can't with that guy. He's a little too much for me. He's a little too extreme for me, but he's a character and I get it. Um, but I mean, some of his takes are legit, but some of them are stupid too. He's one of those guys was like, sometimes he makes I agree with that shit. This I don't agree with. That's how I feel about him. Yeah. Um, so that's how I feel about that. I ain't going live or nothing like that though. Um, Jake Paul against Andrew Tate would be interesting, but I don't think Tate would even do that. I think Jake Paul would do it. Jake Paul would love to take a fight like that. Like that's his kind of fight. you know. Yeah, Bottle Jack against Noel McKellian is tonight. And that's a pay-per-view. It's a $30 pay-per-view. I'm not paying for that. All right. It's not a good undercard. You can, I believe it's on Andrew. It's on Amazon Prime pay-per-view and it's on pay-per-view.com. So you can order it on both. I checked. I'm not paying $30. I'm definitely gonna be covering the zone fight anyway, but I'm not paying $30 to see that fight. You know. Um, like Bottle Jack is cool, like the dude, very nice guy. But again, I'm not this is not gonna be paying out of pocket for boxing every week. Excuse me. Um, I don't know how that fight is gonna go. I don't think Jack won the first fight. I think Noel McKellian won clear 8 rounds to 4, maybe 7 rounds to 5. You know, I, I just don't know. I'm expecting for McKellian to do a little better if he could push it at the pace a little bit more. But I see it being like a draw if the fight is really close. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. Bottle Jack on the scorecards out there. I just don't think Bottle Jack is gonna lose out there unless he gets stopped or something like that. You know what I mean? And I don't think McKellian is that at that point in this stage in his career to do something that like that. You know. Um, yeah, I did see an interview, Jimmy. I did see an interview where he said that he's willing to Bottle Jack said he's willing to fight Jai Opatai if he wins. That'd be great, but I want to I'll believe him when I see it. Depending on who wins. I would like to see listen, I would like to see the unification up there, you know. Um, but I mean, it's not a good division right now. It is what it is. It's just not a good division at this point, you know. But I'm expecting McKellian to do a little better this time. And I feel like if he wins, if if the if the fan base feel like he won even better this time around, I expect it to be a draw. Like I think he's coming into the fight already down 2 points, on the cards. It is what it is. You know, again, it's nothing against. There's no knock on Bottle Jack. I like him. He's good, and he's not in control of how the judges score it. But he did not win that first fight. You know what I mean? He didn't get dominated or anything like that. But I mean, it was a clear winner to me. You know, um, so it is what it is. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, I mean, but yeah, as far as the WBA and the regular title, to end it that topic, I basically feel like now that Gassiev had it, or if had Pulev had won and he had it, most likely Moses Atama, they're keeping it nice and warm for him. Moses beats Gassiev easily. He would have beaten Pulev easily. And that's it. I really don't think there's nothing else to it. That title is to keep it warm for someone that's a real contender. And then that will be the Mando for the next champion, even though uh Ajit Kabayel is already the interim champion with the WBA. He's the interim champion. So at this point, he should be fighting for a title, but he has a fight coming up. Hi, Am. Uh, Wave Apatow was hospitalized 6 out of 7 of his last opponents and broke the last guy's neck. Yeah. Yeah, man. Apatow is a dangerous fighter, bro. And this is why these guys don't want to fight him. And for a guy like Bottle Jack at 42 years old, I respect what he's saying and all that, but I would expect a guy like him to avoid a Jai Opetaia at this stage of his career. not Zerto. I would expect Jack, who's 42 years old, who, he's in good shape. He's still fit. He still fights good, but he wants to just, get his defenses, being the older champ or one of the oldest champ in boxing. I don't expect him to want to get in there with a Jai Opetaia and risk like injury at this stage of his career. He's already been through a ton of wars. He's been stopped. He's been through all of that. He has nothing to really prove. Zerto is different. Zerto, I feel like, yo, bro, when you say you didn't even know who the guy was until recently, like, come on, bro. What are you talking about, bro? You know? Jimmy said if Benavidez sprints back down to light heavyweight after he beats Zerto, he will look like a duck. Yeah, depending on who he's gonna go back down to fight. Depending on who he goes down to fight. Again, I'm not jumping the gun. I never jumped the gun. I want to see who the opponent is first before I start calling people ducks. You know what I mean? Because if he goes back down, let's just say Bivol and Beterbiev have their trilogy fight and he fights the winner of that. Is that bad? No. I don't think by facing the winner of Beterbiev and Bivol, it's a duck. You know what I mean? That's in my opinion. I think both are better than Jai. They just, well, I don't want to sit here and say Beterbiev don't hit as hard, but I mean, is it really a duck if you fight one of those two? You're either going to get your ears boxed off by Bivol or you're going to get knocked out by Beterbiev. You know what I mean? Now, Jai might knock you out too, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, they're not, like, if those are your three options, bro, like, you know what I mean? Like, they all dangerous, Yeah, PSS, pick your poison. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't got no good options there. Like it, and you know what? I'm not sure if I would pick him to beat either of those guys. And I like Benavidez. I love David Benavidez. Um, what I will say is this though. What I will say is that Benavidez is approaching a good time to fight those two. It's a good time. Simply because Beterbiev is at some point, even though he fights still at an elite level, I still think he's a top 10 pound for pound. He is getting older. You know what I mean? He's not getting better with time. You know what I mean? And same thing with Bivol. You know what I mean? Bivol's coming off some kind of a surgery. Um, you know what I mean? The more fights you see him in, the more you learn on how to beat him. Benavidez is young, he's fresh. He's a high punch output guy. I think his chances of beating them are higher than they were if he had moved up 3 years ago. You know what I mean? So that's how I feel about that. All right. Let's go boxing for a second. Let's go boxing for a second. Just for a second. Oh, let me throw this. I'm gonna throw in the link just in case any of you guys want to join up real quick. Let's go boxing for a second. Did anybody see the Street Fighter trailer? Is anybody else like do you guys care about that? Because I do. Did you guys happen to see the new Street Fighter movie? Coming out with a new Street Fighter movie. Did anybody check that out? And if you did, what's your thoughts on that? Because I'm very excited. And it looks stupid, but I don't care. I'm excited because I love Street Fighter. All right. Now I don't play the games no more. Like I'm not, and I know they're like up to Street Fighter 6 or something like that. I don't play the games no more. I play the old games. All right, but I'm excited for the movie. and the trailer sold me. They got 50 Cent playing Balrog. So I'm excited. I like the trailer. The reason why I like the trailer is because I think like it reminds me of the 90s version. And I know the 90s movie sucked, but it's like a movie that wasn't good that I liked. Like I still watched it as a kid all the time. Um, this is a problem I have, right? And I know they got a Mortal Kombat movie too coming up. I saw the trailer of that. Now they have a full. This was more like a teaser than the trailer. The Street Fighter one. The Street Fighter is a teaser. So when I say it's a teaser, it's less than a minute long. You're just getting little clips of what we're getting, right? This is a problem I have with this. The casting. Sometimes some of the casting look really good, right? The guy that plays Ryu is the guy that plays the main character in the movie in the show Warrior. If I don't know if you guys watched it, it's on HBO. It's a good kung fu fighting show, right? With a good story. I think the guy that plays Zangief looks cool. He looks like Zangief for real. I like the chick that's playing Chun Li, but she don't look better than the chick that played the 90s Chun-Li. The guy that played the wrestler, I forgot his name, Cody Rhodes or whatever. The wrestler that's playing Gaio does not look right as Gaio. He looks ridiculous. He looks ridiculous. Some of them look ridiculous. All right. Vega looks ridiculous. In 1994, Vega looked fire in the original Street Fighter movie. And in 1994, Chun-Li looked fire. Van Damme as Gaio was fire. You know, even Raul Julia. Raul Julia, when I was a kid, when I first saw the movie, I didn't like him as Bison because he didn't have like physically, he didn't look like him, but he acted the shit out of the role. He was the best actor in the film, right? As a bad guy. So I saw the trailer. You know what they're doing? I think a lot of movies are starting to get away from the dark film making, that dark vibe that we've been getting for the past 15 plus years. You know what I mean? Like, when we look at the Dark Knight trilogy, some of the Marvel films, some of the films that's been much darker. And this Street Fighter film looks like it's a fun movie, like how the 90s was one. You know what I mean? It's not super serious. It doesn't have a serious tone to it. It has a comedic tone to it, but there's fighting in it. It might be good, it might be bad. I have a feeling like it's not going to be great, but it might give me that feeling where like, okay, some of it was cool, but some of it was stupid. You know what I mean? I just want to see good fight scenes, and I want to see better special effects than what we got in the 90s film, because the 90s film had bad special effects. And it had bad special effects, but the Mortal Kombat film in the 90s had great special effects for that time, right? Never forget Johnny Cage, Scorpion, and the Woods fight. When Scorpion opened up his hand and shot that shit at that time was probably one of the illest things I ever seen on TV, you know? Yeah, let me see what you guys are saying. Let me see what you're saying. Alan said, "Has a video game movie ever been good?" Um, Damn, that's a good question. I mean, I like the first Mortal Kombat. I think that's definitely one of the first one. I thought the last one, they almost got it right, but they disappointed towards the end. And I think in the most recent Mortal Kombat, I think it was because of the new character Cole. The movie was centered about around him, and he was just a made up character. And I think they made a mistake by doing that. It's my personal opinion. Again, I like the original Street Fighter, but I don't think it was a good movie. But I liked it, right? I still watch it every few years or so. I just watch it. I used to watch it. I used to watch it with my dad. Like it was a good time back then, but it wasn't a good movie though. I'm not gonna sit here and convince you it's a bad movie that I just happen to like. You know what I mean? I can tell you one thing though, all right, well, the Mario cartoon movie that came out recently was good. The Sonic movies are good, especially the third one. They got better each one. So the Sonic movies are good. The Mario, if you're talking about real life adaptation films, I would say the first Mortal Kombat. Um, I would say the Double Dragon and Mario film, the real life one from the 90s was probably two of the worst video game films. Let me look it up. Uh, I never watched the Hitman movie, and I never was I never was into the Hitman game, the franchise like that. Just for me. I never seen Uncharted movie, but I loved the Uncharted games. I had one and two. And three. I had three. I didn't beat three though. Uh yeah, most of them are not. I never liked any of the Resident Evil movies. I didn't like any of them. Doom was okay. It was alright. Tomb Raider was cool. Tomb Raider was cool. Not great. Um, yeah, most of these are not good. I didn't care for the Max Payne film. Yeah, most of these was trash. I ain't gonna lie. The Need for Speed movie was like, some good racing scenes in it. Yeah, I'm going down a list here. Yeah, it's not much there. I would say the Sonic films are probably the best. I would say the Sonic. I think I have not seen Cecil 2. No, I did not see because I didn't watch the first one yet. Yeah, the first, I would say between the first Mortal Kombat film and the Sonic films are the best video game films for me. He said they need to make a Metal Gear movie. I agree. I agree. All right, but I saw the trailer of Street Fighter. I thought the trailer was done good. Again, it's all about the casting. I think some of the casting look ridiculous. I think Vegas looks stupid. I think Gaio looks stupid. Um, I seen pictures of like Akuma. He looks pretty ridiculous. I don't really care how Bison look. I think Ryu looks cool. I think 50 as Balrog. I'm for it. I'm against it. Like, he looks kind of weird with the haircut, but he looks better than the original Street Fighter, Balrog. Um, who else looks good? I think Zangief look good. I think Chun-Li looks good. Oh, Dalsim. Dalsim looks dope. Dalsim probably is the best looking one in that trailer. If you didn't watch the trailer, check out the trailer. Dalsim looks probably the best out of everybody in there. All right. Yeah, yo, Ayo, I'm gonna watch it, bro. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it. I have it actually on my Fire Stick, and they're in my movies to watch list. Yeah. So anyway, all right. Let's get back into boxing, man. I saw Nick Ball is fighting Brandon Figueroa. It's not a bad fight. It's just like 126 is still like these guys do not they just refuse to unify. Every generation, they don't want to unify ever. It's not a bad fight. Like it's a good fight, but I'm just tired of these guys not unifying, you know? And also in 126 news, Shu is gonna be fighting Castro. for the vacant title of Steve Fulton. Fulton is not going back down to 126. Carlos Castro, the guy that recently fought Fulton, is going to be facing against Shushu Carrington. I think that's a good fight. That's going to be a tough fight for Shushu. That's all I'll say. You know, when at some point I will break it down, but that's not that is not an easy fight for Shushu. What's good, Wook? What's good?
What's going on?
What's up, bro? Thanks for joining in, man.
I think I have double audio going on, so I'm just gonna quiet one of these mics down.
Now you sound good. Before we go back to boxing, was you listening in? I was asking everybody about the Street Fighter trailer. Did you watch that?
Yeah, I saw some of the talk about the Street Fighter trailer. I haven't seen the characters. I do remember the one with Raul Julia and Van Damme. So I haven't seen the upgraded cast
Oh,
just
okay.
yet.
Okay.
You know, I was a Ken and Vega user back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I was yeah, I mean, I use Ken and Blanca a lot. Ken and Blanca. I felt like when I was playing serious, I was use Blanca because I used to know how to cheat with Blanca.
Yeah, and obviously, yeah, they used to have the regular edition. Then you could get the championship edition with the 4 additional characters, allowing you to use Balrog and
Yeah,
Sagat and so forth. Those were good
yeah,
times.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, the new trailer of the movie just came out. They got 50 Cent playing as Balrog. Oh yeah, Aquarius just said Andrew Schultz, a comedian, is playing Dan. Like
Oh wow,
the
Andrew
casting is
Schultz.
crazy.
Andrew Schultz is playing who?
Dan Hibiki, the fake Ken and Ryu, the guy that used to wear the pink gi, and
Yeah,
his fireball was like he sucked, but he's like a comedy version of Ken and Ryu.
interesting. You know,
Yeah.
I found it kind of interesting when you were speaking about movies in general taking stepping away from the dark tone that they had taken over the past decade or so, when everything
Mhm.
was kind of had like a dark underlying vibe to it. It does seem like they're kind of moving away from it and kind of going back into not necessarily like a playful mode, but yeah, just something that has a little bit more levity and isn't so brooding and deep, you know.
Yeah, I think when I watched the trailer, right, I was reading the comment. I read the comments. Sometimes I don't even watch stuff. Sometimes I go straight to the comments just because I just want to see how people react to stuff. And people were saying, like, if you played the game, why would you be mad that it's not serious? Because the game is not really serious when you're playing the game. Now, if you're watching a Street Fighter, like the animated movie, or like, if you go into that, it's a lot more dark, it's a lot more serious than the video game. But the actual video game, especially the newer ones, is not a serious type of game, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. You know what video game back around that era, I would say early PlayStation era, it surprised me in terms of how dark it was Twisted Metal. You were talking about were there any they did have a movie on that, didn't they?
Well, they have a TV show on
Okay.
Peacock, I think,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and it's active right now. What's his name? The guy that plays um Captain America, the new guy, Anthony Mackie.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I was
Okay.
about to call him Papa Doc. I was about to call him Papa Doc from 8 Mile, but Anthony Mackie, he
Yeah.
plays character. And I never watched, like, I think I watched the first few episodes and I wasn't really feeling it, but I heard that it's like really, I heard this show is pretty good.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I might go back to it and check it out.
Because yeah, that when that game came out, it was the same era as Resident Evil, Silent Hill. I think they had a movie on that back in the day.
Yeah.
But whoever asked that question about whether there was a video game that translated into a good movie, I thought that was a good question. It had me thinking as I'm watching that, like has there
But
been?
which ones did you like?
Let's see, translated to movies. You know, I did like that first Mortal Kombat. I did
Yeah.
like that. I know you said you didn't care too much for the Street Fighter, but at the time, just given the age that I was, I still found it entertaining and would come back and rewatch it just because I mean, it was almost like for me, like when the Ninja Turtles had a movie, it was like, oh, wait a second, we're doing this, but with actual actors. Yeah, I'm in. So I don't think that my expectations were heightened back in the 90s. I think that they would just give us a movie, and I think I was a lot less critical. So
Yeah,
I enjoyed it, and I think I enjoyed a few movies. Have not seen the Sonic ones. I know you had mentioned that those are pretty good.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but there have to be several that we're just not thinking about right now because there just have to be movies that translated cleanly, or I'm sorry, video games that translated cleanly into movies. They're just not coming to mind right now. I know they've taken a few swings at the Mario franchise. Um, has there been a good Zelda movie that comes to mind?
yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think they made a Zelda movie, but uh, I would definitely say, like, I like the Street Fighter movie. And I was saying that it wasn't a good movie, but I love the movie. Like, I still watch it from time to time.
Yeah,
As a
yeah.
kid at the time, I remember going to the movies and seeing it. I went to the Bronx. I was in the Bronx, and I went to a movie. I think my mother might have taken me to see the movie. Um, and I loved it. And even the people in the movie theater loved it at the time. Now, when you see, now that we have YouTube and you have reaction people, content creators and stuff, and they're just bashing anything that's old now. But at the time, yeah, the special effects didn't really hold up compared to Mortal Kombat. But
Yeah.
outside of that, I thought some of the casting was done really well. Like I thought Van Damme as Guile was really good. I thought the chick that played Chun Li was good. I thought Raw Julia as Bison was good. And I think some of them were really bad. Like, certain. I think they try like DJ, for example. He was like a fake Jamaican accent dude. Like, he wasn't even a fighter, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
then
yeah.
the scientist, he was like this regular like white dude, and then at the end, he like shaved his head and became Dawson.
That was kind of random. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like random, like
But you just roll with it, as a kid watching
yeah,
that stuff. I still feel like it's a part of my childhood. So
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
it,
yeah. Yeah,
so
nah. And
what?
then they had like Sagat that played the guy that played Sagat. Like he had his patch on the wrong eye.
Oh, is
Like
that
so,
right?
yeah, nah. I knew. Like listen. I was a crazy Street Fighter person, bro.
Good attention to detail. That's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but
I had heard that you had mentioned Bruce Shushu Carrington is about to take on Castro.
yeah, I think that's a tough fight.
It is, and so obviously Fulton is done being the champion in that division, right? I mean, they're not doing him any favors, but Shushu, I always saw him as kind of being maybe the second or third best from that class. You know how we have waves of prospects coming in, and they are often fighting on top rank, right? So he came in with that Troy Isley, Keyshawn Davis, later Abdullah Mason. Um, Shushu, I've I've kind of been on the fence on whether he can be a truly elite guy. I mean, I think he can become a belt holder, but that's a
Mhm.
different question than whether he can be a top two guy in a division, top 2, 3 guy in the division.
Yeah,
If you were to handicap that fight, where would you put that? Shushu versus Castro.
I don't know. You know why? Because when I think of Castro, I think about his fight with Fulton, and I'm not really sure if Fulton really won that fight.
I was watching that fight thinking Fulton might be done. And that was obviously before the Figueroa
Me
rematch.
too.
He
I don't
got
know if I
dropped.
was live. If I was live, I'll probably look it up. But I just want to. I remember watching that fight and saying like, this guy might be done because he couldn't even get past Castro's jab.
Yeah,
I mean, he
yeah.
was getting wrecked with his jab.
Yeah, and remember, not too far before that, Castro had been stopped by Figueroa.
Figueroa,
You know,
exactly.
so
I'm
uh,
looking at it like, yo, if you're doing this to a guy that Figueroa already smashed up, and we all know styles make fights, you know what I mean?
yeah,
But at the end of the day, I'm watching that fight live. Like, I think Fulton is done. In fact, I picked him. I was wrong on the Figueroa rematch based off that fight. I picked Figueroa to beat him in a rematch simply because he looked bad against Castro.
They had that common opponent, and plus he had been, at that division, Figueroa, for like one or two more fights than Fulton had, and
Yeah.
Fulton was just one fight out of the Inoue fight. So there was a lot of reason to think that Figueroa should win that rematch, which it always reminds me. I feel like people forget what the expectations were before fights. Everybody has like recency bias, and it's almost like they have to always reshape their outlook based on what just happened. But sometimes it's easy to forget that, oh, no. Like for instance, 5 years from now, people are going to forget that they thought Brian Norman was going to beat Devin Haney or something,
Yeah.
because we saw what we saw. So everybody readjusts and says, okay, well, Norman ain't nothing. Is often the type of reaction. It's like, well, come on, the betting odds don't lie. That gives you a sense of what people are thinking coming into some of these fights.
Yes. Same thing with Crawford and Canelo. Same thing. People were, bro, before they even made the fight, people thought it was ridiculous that they fought. I even thought it was ridiculous of the idea of the fighting.
Yeah.
Thought it was ridiculous. Even Crawford thought it was ridiculous at one point.
At the Breakfast Club, he said that they have weight classes for a reason.
This is what I'm saying. So now that he beats the guy, it's like, oh, Canelo is past it. He's terrible. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's washed up.
Yeah.
But it happens all the time, and it'll never stop. In fact, another thing that people tend to do is that people don't get their flowers until after they're retired and they've been beaten and battered, and now people come out and respect them later. Like, well, look at all the love that Wilder is getting right now, as opposed to what he was getting a few years ago. You know what I mean? He's out there in the IBA, event, and he's, all these people are taking photos with him, and people are telling me, leaving comments, like, oh, they want to see him in this fight with this guy, and they want to see him. Yeah, because he's already been exposed. So now it's like everybody's going back to liking him, you know what I mean? And it is what it is. I've always liked Wilder, but I've always been critical of him,
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think the criticism was warranted, especially when you lost a rematch and you had 20 different excuses. Like, I think I counted like over 20 at one point.
That was probably the low point in his career, when he did what he did with what was his trainer, the former Olympian, former welterweight champ, his trainer that he fired and he accused of sabotaging his water bottle. The name's escaping me, but very good fighter turned trainer. But it was always interesting with Wilder because he was always showing those kind of flaws in his game, but he had outsized power. And usually when somebody's just a heavy-handed dude, I always pump my brakes on really believing on what they could do on the highest level. Like, even when Daniel Dubois was coming up and fighting Gorman and people like that, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if he's going to be elite, because we know he's got power, but what happens when he's in a truly tough fight? With Wilder, the paradox that I always struggled with when it comes to like fan perception is they would elevate Tyson Fury at the time of the trilogy, especially after that second fight, to saying that he's one of the greatest to ever do it. They would put him in like the top 10 all-time heavyweight list. But then they would kind of crap on Wilder and say he ain't nothing. I'm like, well, you can't do both, because that's Tyson Fury's biggest claim to fame, is those fights with Wilder. So when you trash Wilder's name, you're discrediting Tyson Fury's resume at the same time. So which is it? But I feel like we often get it where when a fighter's truly cooking and on top, there's a tendency to want to knock them down a peg or two and say, well, they're not doing this or not doing that. But yeah, when they've been knocked out a couple of times, they've taken their losses, they look like they're on their way out, then people start remembering all the good times and how much they brought that division to life and how much more fun, you know what I mean, they made the sport.
Right.
But I feel like we got that with Oscar De La Hoya. I know personally, because Oscar was so good when he was stopping Ruelas and Chiquitito Hernandez and coming up the ranks and having that close fight with Ike Quartey. I personally wanted to see Oscar lose just because he was cooking so hard. He was just doing so well.
Right.
And by the time, he's in a stage where he's fighting like Ricardo Mayorga and Fernando Vargas, I'm like, thank you, Oscar. You know what I mean? So I even fell victim to that, back in the 90s when Oscar went through his career. I found a greater appreciation. And I realized that he was one of the big reasons I kept tuning into boxing, was because Oscar was such an attraction throughout those years.
I wanted to see, people wouldn't know this, but I mean, I talk about it a lot on the channel, but that's how I felt about Floyd. I wanted Floyd to lose at some point, and Shane Mosley was the fight I wanted him to lose.
I think that was the one time I pulled against Floyd, really, was in the Shane Mosley fight.
That was the one time like I put money against Floyd, and I was literally jumping around. I was just telling the story the other day because I had a studio apartment. It was my first apartment as an adult, and like right after college, and I had like a fight party. It was like 8 of us cramped up, sitting on my bed and my little chairs watching the fight. And I bet one of my best friends at the time on Shane winning that one, simply because Shane was coming. I was hyped up about Shane knocking out Margarito. Like I was hyped up. Everything that happened before that, like, because he was clearly slipping. He had lost to Cotto already.
That was the fight that he should have won. Like, legacy wise, you want to win that fight against Cotto, because Cotto outboxed him at the end of the day. And I'm like, damn, come on, man. Yeah. But he had that momentum of that, because Margarito was a dangerous name at the time. That's before he got exposed as the cheater, right? That's before he was a disgraced fighter.
What happened with Cotto, man? It's just he was hot at that moment because of that fight.
Yeah.
And I don't even watch that fight, bro. That's a fight that's like banned for me to watch. Like, I don't watch Cotto because Cotto's one of my favorites. And I just hate the fact that, like, when I watch it, from what I remember, it's like Cotto's outboxing him. Margarito land one punch and this guy's just bleeding. His face is just turning.
It was a weird fight.
Punch. Every time he's getting hit, it's like a crazy amount of damage on his face.
Yeah, because Cotto boxed his butt off in those first 5 rounds. He won like all of those first 5 rounds. He was hitting Margarito with like 5 punch combinations. Then he would get back on his bike, circle out. Margarito would basically be jogging up to him, and you would see him even when he would hit to the body or something. Cotto looked like a dog that was it looked inhumane what was happening in that ring. And I couldn't make sense of it. And I remember watching it, with my dad, like you, I came up watching boxing a lot with my dad, and he was saying, look at the body language in there. Yeah, Cotto's winning these rounds, but does he look comfortable right now? And I'm thinking, what's going on? So after that fight played out in the way that it did, Margarito seemed almost unhumanly durable and brutally strong. And, and then what came out. And that's almost one of those where I felt like Margarito should have done jail time for that. If he cheated for that fight, you look at, I didn't think Cotto was going to be able to rebound career-wise after that beatdown. It's actually amazing that he did what he did going forward, because remember, shortly after that, he also got stopped by Manny Pacquiao.
Right.
So I was thinking, I didn't think he would go up, and I know Sergio Martinez had the hurt knee, but he also knocked out, I think he stopped Daniel Gill. Yeah. Impressive.
He turned into Super Cotto for a minute, but he didn't get too crazy because Triple G was lingering around.
Same division.
And no one at 160 wanted that smoke at that time with Triple G. No one at 160 wanted it. Sergio didn't want it. Chavez was up there. He didn't want it. Like, all those guys, he had to fight all the other guys that were good, like, but not the top tier guys. They didn't want it. He eventually went back down and fought Canelo at Canelo weight.
Yeah. Do you think Peter Quillen, if he didn't get stopped by Jacobs, would have fought Triple G?
Nah, because he was PBC, and that PBC thing was heavy at the time.
Yeah,
that PBC thing was a real. Yeah, they was keeping things in house.
I don't.
I don't think that was gonna happen. I was making content back then. I remember, like, he did fight. Peter Quillen. Not for nothing, but Gabe Rosado was giving him that work.
That was a tough fight.
You remember that fight?
Yeah, that was Gabe Rosado gave everybody except for Golovkin a pretty tough go.
Yeah,
at least in that era of Rosado's career, he obviously had struggled later on. But yeah, Quillen, it was interesting because Quillen was a top tier middleweight, at least by ranking standards. But when I watched him fight, I knew he had pretty heavy hands, but he didn't have blazing speed. He was a
Hmm.
good boxer, not a great boxer. So I was always wondering, like, what is it that's making this guy elite? You know what I mean? Like, I knew he was good. I just didn't know if he was great, even when he was an undefeated belt holder.
I think Dmitry Pirog was better than all of them.
That's kind of the one that would have bolstered Triple G's career if he didn't hurt his back and have to retire. That was kind of his other boogeyman, for lack of a better term.
I think Dmitry Pirog, when I watch his fights, every I don't know, few years, I'm bored. I might just go back and start watching some of his stuff on YouTube. I think, and I'm basing it on the eye test. I don't want to base it solely off his performance against Danny Jacobs, but I feel that he had the skills to be a pound for pound top 10 fighter. He didn't fight that long to get there, but I think everything that we praise a lot of fighters for, as far as their skill sets and stuff, like guys like Bivol and Bud and Usyk, I feel like he can do a lot of those things. I think he was really that good, and I think he would have beat Triple G. Like, maybe I probably wouldn't have said it then, but when knowing what I know now, I when I watch his fights, I think he would have beat Triple G.
So it's a combination of the movement, the jab, the foot feints,
It's just too much. He just
yeah,
is too much. He can do it all. He would have been a
him,
problem.
yeah. That
He
that
beat
fight for yeah.
we beat Jacobs with ease. Like, he literally walked him down and Jacobs couldn't do nothing.
Jacobs looked confused early, and he got hurt early.
Yeah.
I felt like Pirog to Triple G would have been like Darius Michalczewski for Roy Jones Jr. around that time, like a fight that should have been made that
Yeah.
unfortunately we
Yeah.
couldn't get. And Pirog
And
is
people
one of
still
those
talk
what
about
ifs,
that too. People will never let that go.
yeah,
They'll never let that go.
including
They
Roy,
feel that
including Roy.
in his prime, they feel like that was the one guy that Roy should have really fought.
Mhm, mhm. Understandably so. I would have still favored Roy just because he was just a out of this world talent. I mean, in terms of the eyeball test, at least during my lifetime watching fighters, he's probably the most impressive, being that I've ever seen operate in the ring. I just haven't seen anything like it before or since.
Would you say he was the greatest Polish fighter? Like, who's the greatest Polish fighter?
Okay, the short list. I mean, is Andrew Galata on the list? I mean, he's not
Yeah,
Mitchell.
you would have to put him on the list.
He's not there. Does
Well, all right. Well,
Adam
and
Konachki count?
Andrew is Andrew Galata remembered for more bad things than good?
Oh, absolutely. He squandered what could have been a great career because he was beating the hell out of Riddick Bowe, but he kept on fouling him just egregiously.
Yeah.
And it's almost I wonder if he had like mental health issues like back then, because he was winning. Bowe was strapped. Bowe was a shot fighter ever since that second Holyfield fight. I know he beat Holyfield in that third fight, but Bowe looked halfway shot by then. He almost looked like David Reed did after the Trinidad debacle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you see Galata just having his way with Bowe, not once but twice, and fouling out of both fights. So
he was winning the fight, though. I mean,
both
it is
of
what it
them,
is.
he looked like he was on his way to a stoppage in both of those cases, and then he just kept on doing it. It's like, yo, what's wrong with you? And then Lennox Lewis happened to Galata, and the rest is history. So I think that he's more seen, I think, as being a little bit of a head case than being a standout heavyweight fighter. So yeah, I'd have to really think of the better Polish fighters in history to really land on that, but maybe.
I put up a little list. Like, they have, like, I guess, search Google and this little AI thing comes up. I mean, they have Darius there, they have Galata there, they have Thomas Adamic there.
He was good.
Shaleski, like,
Adamic would have been a great bridgerweight.
A lot of the recent guys are there, to be honest. Even that, like, from Farah, I would say it's between Andrew and Darius, probably, to me.
Yeah. I liked watching Adamic fight. He was so technical, and he was usually smaller than his opponents, but he would just, kind of just use the whole ring and just use his timing. It wasn't until he I think against one of the Klitschko's that he really started to get dusted off. And
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And
He
then
did
Fafara was
fight.
the guy. Mhm.
Was it Vladimir?
I want to say Vitali.
But
but I'd have to check.
at one point, he was the top dude outside of Klitschko's.
Yeah, he
Like
earned that too.
before Povetkin like came around. Like I think he was like the top guy as a heavyweight for a long time.
Would you say
Yeah.
that was the roughest time in heavyweight history in terms of you're watching the sport? When your best guys were like John Ruiz, Hasim Rahman. Would you say that was the most lackluster heavyweight era
Yeah,
you've witnessed?
man. Yeah, man. I think after when the Klitschko took over and you had Samuel Peter, you had Chris
Chris
Bird. Chris
Bird,
Bird
yeah,
was good though, but
he
he's just
was.
he I think, outside of Klitschko brothers, I think Chris Bird had the most talent. Didn't have the greatest chin, but I think like skills, I think he had the skills from what we seen in the older heavyweights before him. Like I thought he had
Yeah,
the skills. Eye test wise, he was slick. Like he was one of the very few. He's not like these heavyweights now. You know what I mean? Like he was definitely slicker. Move. Remember, like people praise Tyson Fury for doing the things that Chris Bird did easily.
yeah. Try doing that at 6'1", 6'2". You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like,
you know. But yeah, that was I think Thomas Adamek was one of the guys that people just didn't care about. He was a Polish fighter. Klitschko's was running the show. Klitschko's was already beat everybody. And so it was always about who's third or fourth best at the time,
they were just
and there was
lapping the
really no one that
competition.
stood out.
Yeah, but there got to a point where Vladimir was fighting guys like Calvin Brock and Ray Austin. It got pretty bad.
Yeah, nah, it was bad, bad. And
Yeah.
you had Ruslan Shagayev, you had like, there's guys that no one's gonna ever like really remember like that. You know what I mean?
Holyfield got robbed against Valuev.
Oh God. Valuewell sucked, bro. This is
He
big for
was a
no
big
reason.
dude. He was just a big,
This is a big dude. Was
he,
it he fought David Hay, right?
David
David
Hay.
Hay
Yeah,
fought him?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
David Hay. I think David Hay dropped him, but then it stopped him. I think it went the
Yeah.
distance. David Hay was a bad boy. People, remember him losing to Tony Bellew, but that was
Bro,
an Achilles ridden.
I saw someone talking about him about that recently. Okay. I saw a post on Twitter and somebody on Twitter said that David Hay would have knocked out Usyk in cruiserweight. And it got a whole bunch of mentions, right? And I think the first mention was David Hay, the same guy that got stopped by Tony Bellew. And I'm like, bro, did you not watch David Hay as a cruiserweight? Like, yo,
But that's like
he's a
saying like,
top 10
yeah,
cruiserweight of all time, in my opinion.
I think he might be a top
Top
7,
five. He might be
5. Yeah.
He might be 5.
Like
Yeah.
this dude he had great hand speed, he had good feet, good movement, and he had blistering just knockout power. He was one of the hardest pound for pound punchers in the sport.
Yeah.
Like if you and his resume, he stopped some good fighters.
Even as heavyweight. Even as a heavyweight.
That's why it was interesting going into. I know he might have hurt his ankle or something happened with him against Vladimir, but there was some intrigue going into that one because of what people had seen David Hay do. But I'm not going to flat out come out and say I would expect him to beat Usyk, but it's not the craziest idea in the world. And then for commenters to say, "Oh, the same guy who fought Tony Bellew," that would be like if Usyk, like 3 years from now, loses to Moses Atama, and then people down the line saying, "Oh, the same Usyk that lost to Moses Atama." It's like, okay, the guy was 40 years old.
Yeah.
You always have to consider where somebody is in their career. Like Oscar De La Hoya that got stopped by Manny Pacquiao was not Oscar De La Hoya.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if you put David Hay in that, because I think, the World Series of Boxing tournament and around that time, maybe a few years before that, all the way up until the second tournament where things started fading out in the cruiserweight division. If you were to put David Hay in that time, I think with the exception of Breedis and Usyk, I think he definitely beats everybody else. And that's including Michael Hunter, Christoph Glowacki.
Glowacki was undefeated when Usyk beat him.
Yeah, yo, Usyk, people don't know how good Usyk's cruiserweight. Dude, all those guys was undefeated.
Breedis, Gassiev,
yeah. All those guys was
Hunter.
undefeated.
Hunter was undefeated. He's still Hunter's only guy to beat Hunter. Yeah.
They were all, I think the only one, Marco Hook was the only one that was undefeated, but I think all the rest of them were.
Mm-hmm. And Usyk stopped that guy, who used to give Ilunga Makabu issues, Makunu. Usyk beat Makunu too. He stopped Makunu when Makunu was serious business.
Yeah, I remember talking about him because I think that was one of the first southpaws, if not the first southpaw he had fought.
You're great at that, by the way. You're excellent at that. With all your breakdowns, you always reference the relevant fights that fighter had to see how they're going to likely do against its upcoming style. I've always noticed that about what you do.
Yeah, you know what it is, and this is why when I'm wrong, people don't destroy. I never got destroyed for being wrong like that, because people will be like, "Yo, I disagree with you, but this was a good breakdown." That's all I care about.
Yeah,
I mean, as far as being right, of course I want to be right, but when I see other people make predictions, it's like they're attacking the fighter that they dislike, and they just like he's gonna get knocked out because, like, it's like Devin Haney. People want him to lose so bad that they just, Brian Norman Jr. is knocking him out. You don't know what you're talking about. Brian Norman's stopping him. You don't know shit. Like, that's how people come, because it's like a personal thing with them. It's like, nah, I watched all of these fights to make this prediction. Even if I'm wrong, I'm basing it off these. This is what I've seen in this fight.
Yeah. Like the way
you do the same too, though. You do the same as well.
Thank you. I mean, it's almost like two different questions. There's who do you want to win? Like, if you're like in a room full of people and you're just pointing at everybody, like right before the first bell starts, hey, who you going with? Who you going with? Who you going with? Right? You go around the room and people will just tell you more or less who they want to win, right? Who they're rocking with. That's a whole different question than if you were to like ask somebody, yo, if you guess this right, you win $10 million. Right. Who are you going with? People would change that up really quickly.
And people don't understand that. It's a simple concept. It's no different from music. When we go into these hip hop debates, right? And somebody asks me like, who do you think are the top 5 most greatest lyricists of all time? That list is not my favorite list. I tell people my favorite list. Some of the people that's in my favorite, if I gave you my top 20 rappers, some of them people you're gonna be like, why you got them so high? And it's like, I'm giving you a list on who I listen to the most. This is not who I think is the most lyrical. I don't think this person has the most classics. You know what I mean? It's just based off like what criteria we're talking about. Are we talking about music overall, like, which is all subjective? Are we talking about lyricism? Are we talking about classic albums? Like, versatility, you know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about? Hit records, who's a hit? You know what I mean? That's how I answer a question. Like, are you asking me who's my favorite? My favorite is not who I think is the most lyrical at all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I like Nori's debut album. I don't expect to see him. I like Capone Noriega. That doesn't mean that they're going to be on the top of the all-time list. That's just a personal who I want to play. Who CD I would play in the car back in the day. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm a big Tyler the Creator fan.
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of him. He's in my top 10. I don't think he's the most lyrical, but if I could pull up like what songs I listen to the most, like I have a playlist just for him. I don't have a playlist for everybody. I have like a playlist for like 10 different rappers.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's all about who I listen to the most. It's not about like, okay, I think this guy raps. I think Lupe is one of the greatest lyricists of all time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree.
But do I listen to him as like Kanye? No, I don't. I listen to Kanye more than I listen to Lupe. But I think Lupe is probably gonna rap better than almost everybody. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
If
yeah.
not everybody. Like I think he's in the top 3 somewhere, top 5 as far as lyrics. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. There's a level of objectivity depending on what the question is. Are we talking favorite? Are we talking
Yeah.
a certain criteria? I wanted to ask you, I'm probably gonna hop off in a bit and let you rock on. And you're probably gonna cover the Keyshawn Davis. I'm a little confused, man.
Yeah. Oh, all right. I do want to talk about that. That's on the topics of today.
Yeah,
We
if you want, we could just bottle that and you bring that up, after I drop. I want to get
yeah,
your thoughts on that at some point. Yeah.
yo. So I seen the interviews, right? Because he shows, I guess he goes to the Teofimo Lopez, Shakur Stevenson presser. So he's doing all these interviews. So I see the interview where he's like, I deleted my whole team. He deleted his whole team. He's only with his brothers at this point. I know what's his name reacted to it already. The coach, Bomac.
Womack?
Yeah, he made a comment about something like he's protecting his integrity or something like that. I don't know what that means, but this is the way I took it. It's either one or two things. If you're telling me you got rid of your whole entire team, that means you are either A, you got rid of your team because they poorly advised you leading up to that De Los Santos fight, or B, you don't want to take accountability for missing weight. We're not even talking about the Albright situation. That's totally different. I'm just sticking to De Los Santos fight. You miss weight by over 4 pounds. So you refuse to take accountability and you just blaming it on the people around you, or maybe they advise you to come in overweight and you're going to just go, because a lot of people have been doing that lately. This
Shakur did
I'm
it against
going up in weight
ACL.
thing, so I don't care about if I miss weight. So I don't know where he's coming from with that.
Did you think Shakur's miss weight against Conceição was deliberate? And I know that he's not Bomac. I know he's K Karoma, but did you at the time view that as being a strategic move rather than I just couldn't get down?
So I think there's two things. I think it's one thing when it's strategic, like Lemos against
Mhm,
Keyshawn.
mhm.
And I think sometimes people are like, you know what? I'm not even bothered. I'm moving up anyway. So I'm these extra couple of pounds. I'm just not even gonna try to cut down because I'm gonna move up anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Deliberate means like I'm gonna have an advantage over you. Like Salido against Loma, wasn't he
Yeah.
like overweight?
Overweight, yeah. Yeah.
I feel like, you know what? Danny Jacobs, I'm not gonna do the same day weigh-in against Triple G.
Mhm.
Forget the IBF strap. I want to win the fight more. I want to be the strongest that I can be. So I think in certain situations, yeah, it could be deliberate. And I think in others, I think these guys are like, you know what? I'm not even gonna cut these last couple. It's still unprofessional either way.
Mhm.
Because your opponent, like Oshaki Foster, you can't tell me this was planned about this 135 belt at WBC. That's not planned. The guy made weight to hold his belt, and then we find out he's not. He's going to continue fighting at 130.
Yeah.
That was just to give a Fulton a shot at a title.
You
So
know,
that's my answer to that.
do you think that the treatment that they gave Keyshawn, that basically how it backfired, right? The fight's off, you ruined the whole card,
Yes.
or it was a debacle. Do you think that that will serve as a deterrent for fighters in the future that want to strategically miss weight?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. As much as I support Keyshawn, I like him, and I'm glad he's at least he's talking about coming back and stuff like that. We can't normalize these kind of things, man. We can't keep normalizing guys just being like, all right, well, I'll just go up the next fight. I'll go up we don't want to normalize that. 4.3 pounds is ridiculous. I mean, I keep throwing out different because I just remember Zerto and Gabe Rosado. Like, what was that? Zerto was like
Oh
8 pounds.
wow. That was down the street from where I was living in Long Beach at the time. I was planning on going to that fight. Then I read that. I'm like, well, so much for that. That fight shouldn't have
Yeah.
ever been made, really. Gabe Rosado going up again to light heavy to fight.
Nah.
That was a terrible fight to begin with. But then you see what happened on the scales. It's like, get out of here.
Nah, we can't, and this is why I say this, the same thing when it comes to people that pop. If these guys are just gonna get, I mean, most of them fight only once a year anyway.
Yeah.
So if they're getting 6 to 1 year suspensions, or if they're in a situation where they can just travel to another country and fight, it's the copping, taking drugs is worth the risk. If you're
right now, given the penalties that they're handing out, 12 months, which is, I mean, it's worth it. I mean, because what's the likelihood that I'm going to get caught? Worst case scenario, I do get caught. I miss a fight and I rock on. You could schedule your next fight while you're still suspended. You could schedule it. You just can't enter the ring.
And these guys be scheduling that same month where they're free to fight.
Yeah. I think that minimum 18 months, but I think that 24 months would do the trick. I mean, 24 months, a fighter might not be the same.
You might not be the same, and it's hurting your pockets.
Yeah.
So I think that what happened with Keyshawn, I'm glad De Los Santos didn't take the fight. Listen, as a fan, sometimes I just be wanting to see the fight anyway. Even like look at the Devin Haney situation. The guy missed weight. We found out about the test after the fact, but Haney and them was probably so confident, bro, that they were like, yo, whatever. We're going to beat you anyway. You missed weight. I'm cutting down to make the weight. You clearly went in over, you even bragged about it, and look what happened. Those little things matter. Those little things, every pound, any fighter are going to tell you every pound counts.
Yeah. And they'll also tell you that it's that last pound that you have to shed that's the most painful and potentially destructive. It's just crazy how much, since you mentioned him, how much Ryan Garcia continues to fail upward. You know what I mean? Everything that happened with first of all, okay, so he lost lost a Tank. No shame in that. 2 fights later, well, he missed weight against Oscar Duarte, stops Duarte. Remember, he missed weight for that fight. Then he's got the whole Devin situation.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Then he loses his comeback fight, and he's in line for a title shot against Mario Barrios, and he's the main commentator with Max Kellerman and Coppinger on Ring's new setup. I've never seen somebody misstep so many times and keep on getting huge opportunity after huge opportunity.
Well, let's not forget about the racist rant he went on.
People are acting like that didn't happen. What happened with that? Like, dude, all's forgiven. Like,
dude, the WBC even made a statement about it, and they're giving him more opportunities than anybody right now. Like, I've never seen something so bad get I think he lost some of his sponsorships and stuff at the time.
Yeah,
but I've never seen something so bad. Even and I try to tell people off the internet. I'm like look at the TL situation. He makes certain comments and he's done certain racist. He says certain racist thing, but he's usually attacking his opponent that he's fighting. I'm not saying that that's good, but there is a difference. Ryan went on a completely destructive meltdown on Black people.
Yeah,
it was just on a random podcast.
Yeah,
and I've seen so many fighters. It's like, all right, well, I wasn't, it's okay. I'm like, all right, well, I mean, this is cool. This is okay. We're just gonna just let this go, and he's still gonna miss weight. He can still pop on drug tests. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, because they look at him as still being bankable at the end of the day, and they feel like their platform, whether you're talking about the promoter or the sanctioning body, which, it's interesting. When Turkey hit the scene, right? And then, he partnered with Dana, and then it looks like, well, are the promoters in trouble? The other ones? Are the sanctioning bodies in trouble? And then it looks like now they're kind of getting along a little bit, and and Dana are acting like they're going to let these sanctioning bodies breathe a little bit, let them live for a little bit. But I almost get the vibe that it's like a company that's about to do layoffs. they start treating the people well, not tipping their hand in terms of I'm going to fire y'all in a little bit, start saying complimentary things and make it seem like all is good. And then the axe comes down. So it's kind of weird seeing this little dance that the sanctioning bodies are doing with Turkey and company and vice versa. But the sanctioning bodies aren't doing much to help their cause. They're not making themselves sympathetic figures with some of the moves they're making.
Look at the thing with Whitaker and Buatsi. Like, they just come out and say it, and then they randomly cancel it. And I'm like, okay, you got to give us an explanation why you made this mandatory. I mean, the fight was just 2 weeks ago. It just passed with Ben Whitaker. How did you go from Buatsi being on? Like, I just want to know. And you know what? I was going to bring it up. That was another topic. I just want to know why, because I was cool with Whitaker fighting the winner of these two that's fighting in Africa soon. Dan Aziz or what's his name? Richards?
Craig Richards, yeah.
Craig Richards. I was cool with him fighting the winner of that. I thought the Buatsi thing could be like another 2 fights from now. Yeah. Now, do I think Whitaker is good enough to fight Buatsi? Yes, but I think Buatsi has done way more. And you know what I mean? So I think he's like right below, like, championship level. Yeah. So I was like, I'm cool. But once they announced it, I'm like, okay, that's a good, like,
it's ambitious step, but okay.
Yeah. And then they just said, nah. And I really just believe that it's because they probably, Eddie's trying to get him a little bit more popular out here. I think they want to get him another fight where he could get a crazy knockout. Creates a little bit more buzz before they put him in there with a real threat. And then from there, we'll go to like a good fight, like with a Buatsi. And then from there, maybe we'll get a title shot at some point.
Yeah, I could see them putting Whitaker in there with somebody like Lenin Castillo, the guy who Callum Smith, stretched out when he first hit 175. Something like that, where you can potentially score another highlight reel KO.
Right. Yeah, but this is why the Zuffa people ask me about the Zuffa boxing thing, and I'm like, I don't have nothing to say because I can't defend the things that we're getting now. You know what I mean? Like the things that are happening now. I don't know how bad or good that's going to be. I want to see what happens with it first. I know a lot of boxing fans for years said that they wanted something more structured, like the UFC, and you're gonna get that with that. But yeah, you're gonna get the other thing too, like these guys, the prize fighting part of it, the money part of it might be a lot more different. It's gonna be more controlled. Yeah, it's gonna be more unionized. But these guys that's getting these crazy big checks, it might not be for them.
Yeah,
it might be for the guys that's up and coming.
Yeah,
the younger guys.
Yeah. And a lot of people, I think, are conflating Riyadh Season and TKO with Zuffa. It's like, no, Zuffa looks like they're doing it. They're actually trying to sign people and have like a tournament, like a structured circuit where it might not be the A+ guys in the sport, at least not today. It's going to be some lower level. And it looks like they're trying to populate the calendar with a bunch of activities so you could start growing familiar with some of these lower level, mid-tier names. So what I'm wondering is the game plan to age out the current high money earners, like the Tank Davis era, the people who are asking for $5-10+ million, and let them kind of age out, so then you can start courting the next wave. You know what I mean? And start getting what's this guy's, the Olympian Jamal Harvey, or just basically today's 20-year-old, today's 18, 20-year-old, and then have them maybe become because that ship has sailed in terms of getting the Shakur Stevenson era on Zuffa. They're not getting that level of person. Devin Haney, they're not going to get people who earn that much. It's just going to interesting. It's interesting to see what the long play is. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's going to be. But they're talking about populating the 2026 calendar, and I think it was Nick Khan just said that we've got some guys that you're familiar with. We've signed some guys that you're going to know about, and it looks like they're going to be stepping in where PBC and Top Rank right now are lacking, and that's activity. Like PBC will have one card or every 3-4 months, and if it wasn't for that one card,
some of them get canceled.
Oh, seriously. You
Yeah,
wouldn't know boxing existed outside of there 3 or 4 times when it's almost like, okay, the circus came into town. Let's build up, and all of a sudden you see Mauro Ranallo again, and and Abner Mares for this one card, and then they disappear completely for the next 3 months. No TV shows, no nothing to remind you
yeah,
that boxing exists. So Zuffa right now, they're filling a gap, a void, along with Ring, because Ring's got that round the week show now. It
yeah.
looks like there's more of a boxing apparatus that's being built right now to keep people engaged throughout the year, rather than it just being one event, disappear for a few months, come back for one event.
Yeah, they will have to pull some names though. They would have to start. You can't just completely start with people that no one's familiar with. They're gonna
Yeah,
have to pull some names over there to get people into it. It's just like pro box every once in a while. You're to get a name that like a guy like, oh yeah, I watch, yeah, this guy used to be with PBC, or this guy used to be with Top Rank, you know what I mean? That we're
yeah.
pro box right now.
I like what
You
they
know,
do.
yeah, and Pro Box is doing a great job, by the way. Like they're great. Like I'd be like I gotta start covering their fights more, but usually I'm not available. But and then sometimes I am available. But sometimes I want to watch a fight without being live. Like sometimes I still want to just watch boxing freely to myself.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
watch the cards and stuff, like, and I could be home, but I can just be watching boxing on my
yeah.
own. But
I don't know how you do it, man. Like sometimes you'll do the prelims, you'll do like 7 hour of live, man. That's a lot of
yeah.
being able to endure through that.
And you know what? It'll be that last fight where I'm starting to feel it. It'll be the main event. The main event of the Roach Pitbull fight. I probably didn't look it, but I can tell you I felt really tired when by the time that fight started, I was like really, really, and then I wasn't really into the fight like that. I wasn't really like enjoying it, you know what I
Mhm,
mean?
mhm.
So the mix of like being tired and then not really enjoying the fight, it just drags it down, especially because some people do panels and fight like parties on live
Yeah,
where there's a bunch of people on just chatting.
yeah.
But when you're chatting alone for 7+ hours, I think
That's
the
a
longest I
lot.
did was 9.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
one of
Yeah.
them Riyadh season cards, I did like 9 hours,
Yeah.
and
And
then
it's not
did a post fight video
that
after.
same night. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm sure like then you get hit with the Arislandi Lara fight. And it's not like you could just like log out and come back an hour later. It's like you still gotta sit through that and comment
yeah,
comment through that.
yeah, and it killed people. Leave the views go down. Laura's not doing anything. I can't commentate if they're not throwing any punches. I'm just like, yeah, no, they're still in the center of the ring. Yeah, they're fainting. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, guys. There's nothing going on. I have nothing to report here. They're not
Yeah.
fighting.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. But
Well, I want to thank you, man, for throwing the link out. I'm gonna run and do some like last minute Christmas shopping, man. But
yeah, no, go doing your thing, man. You're always welcome to the channel. Make sure everybody subscribe to What's Good Wug, one of the best breakdown channels out there. And I had somebody come here the other day and they was like, yo, you're always positive and stuff like that. I think it was C Pierre. And I'm like, this is one of the same guys that's the same way. He's never caught up any drama, just straight boxing content, good boxing, good quality boxing content.
Yeah, thanks, Wave. Thanks for doing what you do. I'm gonna tune in the car and check out what you got to say about the rest of these topics too, man. Can't wait.
All right, bro. Have a good one. I'll chat
You
with you
too.
later.
Yeah, happy holiday, Merry Christmas too.
You too. Yeah, shout out to Wug. He's solid dude. Um, what's good, Wug? What's good, Wug? Let me see. I'll pull it up. Okay, hold on. So you guys can check him out. He's a very good channel. Very positive dude. No drama. And he puts quality time and quality time into his content. Very good channel. And highly suggest you guys check him out. Uh, yeah. Hold on. Yeah. This is his channel right here. So definitely check him out. Very positive dude, man. We chat off the net every now and then, you know. Um, he's a solid dude. I like to have him as a guest. Yeah. Yeah, so let's we talked about a lot today. Yeah, I guess the only thing that's left is to talk about Anthony Joshua. And I I talked about everything but the two fighters that's in the that is in the thumbnail for this video. And I looked at the Ring magazine, and they basically reported that they're in heavy talks to have Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. And you know what? I believe it's true. It just makes sense. You know, uh this is too much money there to miss out. And Fury's never really retired. Fury is one of those guys. You know what Tyson Fury reminds me of when it comes to him? He's like that IG model that just pops up, right? Just pops up when they're on a trip to show you, they're on the beach, they're taking pictures with the tigers, they're in Thailand. And then once they finish posting all their content from their trip they're on, they deactivate their account. That's Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, but he's like that with boxing. I'm retired, leave me alone. They want him to come back to take a fight. If the money's good enough, he'll come back and do it. He'll do a tune-up or two. They'll give him the bag for the big, dangerous fight. And then, win or lose, he disappears for a little bit. He always retires. You know what it is? I think he just does it because he's good. That's just pretty much what it is. So Tyson Fury, I do believe that is true. Um, I don't think Usyk really wants to fight him for a third time for good reason. You beat him twice already, clearly. It is what it is. We don't need a trilogy. And I think the only other fight that makes sense, you already been in there with Wilder, and no one else is really. I mean, I even heard like a little bit of talks with Fabio Wardley possibility, but the big money would be AJ and Fury. AJ is about to fight. I believe this is probably going to be his career high payday with Netflix. And if he knocks out Jake Paul, like what he should be doing, Tyson Fury should be next, or Fury should maybe come back and do a tune-up. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't do a tune-up. Maybe he goes right straight in there with AJ. Maybe a tune-up might be a little too risky, at this point, especially because he doesn't really fight outside of, being in the Usyk fight. So maybe I believe it's true, and I think it's going to be the biggest British heavyweight fight. Anybody that's anybody's going to be there, probably going to do it at Wembley Stadium. I think that's the right thing to do, even though they have so many big fights there. I can only imagine what the cost of those tickets will be at Wembley for that fight. You know, um, that would be um, yeah, no, I don't think it's spanning, bro. I see, yeah, that would be. It's still a big fight. It's still a big fight, and I still want to see it. You know, if AJ ends up losing to Jake Paul in some kind of crazy, you know, way, which would be one of the worst things ever if that were to happen. But then I guess the fight's off. Maybe it's still on, but I don't know. But if Jake Paul, I mean, once this Jake Paul situation is done, they should fight, man. It's still a really big fight. Like it is still a really big fight. It is what it is, you know. So I want to still see the fight, and I still like I've always said, I've always liked AJ's chances on winning that fight. You know, I like AJ's chances of winning. Um, but I like Fury's chances of winning too. I do think Fury could still beat him, but I think AJ has a shot at beating him too. You know, like these guys have performances that are like flip flop. Like they're not, the two of them always look poor in certain fights. you know. But it's a big British fight, and you need to have it. It just needs to happen, you know. And if they're in heavy talks about it, I'm sure the money is great. And I'm sure that AJ coming off, like, I know it's supposed to be a rehab season card, but Netflix could easily step in and just take this fight if the money is not what they want. I'm sure there's not too many fights left where Riyadh season is probably going to pay these huge purses. But if there's any fight that they're willing to do that for, it'll be AJ against Fury. If there's any fight left where they're just saying we're going to give you guys each, $100+ million, if they're going to do it for a $200 million purse or even more, it'll be for that fight because they're going to make the money back, especially in Wembley. I mean, that I can only imagine what Wembley is going to be like for that fight. I mean, just seeing how it was for other previous fights before, it was crazy. But I mean, for that fight, they're going to make their money back from that fight, you know? So I still want to see it. I still think that even though they both have lost, I still think that both fighters have good shots of winning. When we talked about this fight, when AJ first got with uh Ben Davison, I always wondered that too. I think that was the first question because AJ had got linked up with Ben and had those couple of fights with him before getting with Triple D. And I was like, well, if the Fury fights happen, how's that going to work? Because Ben Davison used to be Fury's coach, but they still are cool. So maybe that's part of the reason why AJ is not with Ben Davison, and he's training with Usyk. I mean, I don't know if I know AJ tends to lose certain fights, and AJ does switch his trainers often. So he did get stopped by Triple D. So maybe that was the sole reason why he's not with Ben Davison, but maybe it's because they're secretly preparing to fight Tyson Fury, and Ben is probably not going to train him to fight against Tyson Fury. Um, yeah, I agree with you. AJ and Fury are both past their primes. All right. Um, and it's a disservice to boxing fans. They should fought 3 to 5 years ago. They should have. But if they're still gonna fight, I'm still gonna watch it. I'm still gonna tune in. I still want to see it. Still want to see it. It's definitely past it, but like Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson was far past it. Especially Tyson, and it still happened. And I remember everybody tuning in. We watched it. And it is what it is. I wanted them to fight in the earlier 90s. I wanted them to fight before Tyson did that time in prison. We didn't get it. Um, it is what it is. Some of these fights are just not going to happen on time. Most of the time, they don't. And this is why I like fights like Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez. This is why I like fights like Devin Haney against Brian Norman Jr. At the time, I remember Sean Porter and Adrian Broner. It came out of nowhere. It was just super random. Because it's like, damn, like you're gonna put Broner in there with Sean Porter, like now. This was like after the Mike Downer situation. But it was shocking from a sense that we weren't used to getting those kind of fights, like Sean Porter and Keith Thurman. We weren't used to it. So when it happened, it's like surprise because they're so used to building up stuff for a long time. But when we get it, we don't believe that is true. You know what I mean? We don't believe it. But, being that these guys are past it, I still want to see it. It's not as big. But in a sense, it is big because look at how successful they are at the gate and at these pay-per-views, and they can still fill up a stadium and outsell the stadium every single time they do it. And we might say is 3 to 5 years too late, but the money is so much bigger now. And this is why these fighters keep doing this. You know what I mean? They'll take certain fights that are dangerous in between. But I see why they do it, because look at Errol and Bud. Look how big that fight was by the time they made it happen. It was much bigger than it was 4 years prior when we were talking about it. You know, when they had that back and forth thing in the at that arena, the Maurice Hooker fight, and they ran into each other, and Bud was with Bob Arum, and they were talking shit back and forth to each other. At that time, we wanted it then, but it was bigger when it happened. But even though it was bigger when it happened, you know, Spence already had an accident. You know, Spence had like an eye surgery. You know, this is why people wasn't giving credit to Bud for doing it. You know what I mean? And beating him, you know? So it is what it is. But I still think it's a fight that I want to see. And I still think you can make an argument that it still might be right now the biggest fight in boxing outside of these Netflix exhibition type fights. It would probably be the biggest fight in boxing if Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua gets signed and sealed. It's still going to be the biggest fight. You know, I don't think any other fight that all the other big names can get into right now that would be bigger. You know, I can't think of another fight in the sport with the big names like Bud and Canelo and Tank or whoever else that's like well known. I can't think of another fight that would be bigger than Anthony Joshua against Tyson Fury right now. It is what it is. All right. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna get on out of here. Please smash the like button. Please, everybody, just do me that favor. Hit the thumbs up on your way out. I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna be back here at 8 p.m. Eastern. That is 6 hours. I'm covering the zone card. And shout out everybody in the chat. Yo, I seen you guys comment. I had Wood going here, so you know I didn't want to interrupt them. But Rich, shout out to you, AO, Amir. Who else I seen in here? Quaya, what's up? Who else was in here? Khan Enigma, what's up? It's been a minute. What's good with you? Joe Pilot. Who else is in here? Who else is in here? There's a lot of people in here. All right, but shout out to everyone that was in the chat today. I appreciate you guys. Hit the thumbs up if you are new. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll be back later on this evening. All right, so be back 8 p.m. Eastern for Diego Pacheco against Kevin Sajo, and I'll see you guys soon. Y'all have a good day. Peace.